Hey everybody, it is me, Mel. Welcome back to the Polished Professionals channel. If you're new to our channel, we're so glad you're here. If you're returning, thank you so much for joining us again. We are the blog and brand to help the professional woman conquer the workaday world with style and poise. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, we hope you hit the subscribe button below and the bell so you never miss an episode. Today's video is a continuation of our law school series where we are giving you our best tips and tricks for getting into law school and making the most out of it. We hope you've liked our prior episodes, and today we are talking about the top 5 ways you can make sure your law school is paid for, meaning you will not be getting out of law school with tons and tons of loans, and if you do have to do that, we tell you how you can get out of them. So what is tip number 1 to making sure you get your law school paid for? It's pretty obvious: get a scholarship. But how do you go about doing that? Scholarships are so tough to come by for so many people. I know it was for me when it came to graduate school, and it was something I really had to seek out to find a scholarship. So I just want to talk through the first few kinds of scholarships that are really, really specific, and hopefully this will help start your search for your scholarship to get into law school. The first one is, of course, academic scholarships. And academic scholarships are hard to come by because you have to have the LSAT score and you have to have the grades in order to get them. Most of the time, schools will have these available though, so at least you know that academic scholarships are available if you qualify, if you meet the requirements of that particular school in meeting their scholarship needs and requirements. So if you don't meet those though, you shouldn't be applying for the academic scholarships. It will be really hard to come by if you don't meet the qualifications, so don't really waste your time on that. But you can ask admissions what the requirements are and see if you are one of the lucky ones that can get an academic scholarship. If you're one of the folks that can't get an academic scholarship, there are plenty of other scholarships available. Many schools may have special endowed scholarships, for example, for people with specific needs or with specific economic hardships, often sometimes from specific geographic areas or regions. So you really should be asking whoever it is that is your counselor or admissions coordinator, something like that, who may be the right people to talk to when it comes to figuring out what other subcategories of scholarships are available through the school. In addition to the school itself, you should also be looking for things like companies that may sponsor scholarships. So often law firms may sponsor scholarships. Often the requirement is that somebody goes to work for them afterwards, things like that. But you may look into that. Chambers of commerce also may sponsor scholarships. So depending on where you are in the country, depending on your city, depending on things like your chamber of commerce, you really should be looking out there to see what other kinds of scholarships are available to you. And also public policy, look at things like that. That may also be available, but scholarships are worth applying for if you meet the qualifications. So for example, for a geographic scholarship, if you meet the geographic requirements of them and maybe some minimum score level requirements, you really should take the time and effort to apply to get as many scholarships as you can, because that will mean you will not be needing a loan, which is the goal here. So tip number 1, get your scholarships. Tip number 2 to getting your law school paid for is to pay for it yourself. You say, I don't like that. I agree. I know this may be a hard one, but tip number 2 is making sure you work part-time and go to school part-time. So there are a lot of part-time programs. If you saw our prior video linked up here, we tell you all about that. But as you know, if you can get into the part-time program and you can work part-time, you may be able to offset your legal costs for law school so you don't have to get as many loans. I know that may seem like a straightforward one, but it really is probably the least effort. Like scholarships are hard to get. You have to apply, you have to spend a lot of time doing that. That may be more time than you have. So thinking about doing it part-time really may help you offset costs. Also continue to build your resume at the same time. So tip number 2, work part-time, go to school part-time, and get your law school paid for by yourself, interest-free, of course. Tip number 3 for getting your law school paid for, especially if you are working part-time or even if you're working full-time and going to school part-time, is to get your company to pay for it. So lots of companies will have graduate and undergraduate programs. Don't just think that that your businesses will only have undergraduate opportunities for reimbursement. They have reimbursement for graduate schools. And in fact, at one of my workplaces, I actually got more money than they gave to the undergrads. So I got over $10,000 a semester reimbursed where I was. So make sure you look at the company policies that you have and see if your company may reimburse you for going back to school. Now, there always is, or most of the time, there is a hitch about how a company will make you repay the money they give to you to go to school. Often that means that you're gonna work for them for a number of years afterwards. My company that I happened to work for had me work an extra 1 year. Until if I hadn't worked that 1 year, I'd have had to pay the last semester's money back to them that they had paid to me. So that is something that you definitely want to think about, because if you're going to law school, typically you'll want to move straight away into some sort of legal job. So be careful about that, but perhaps your company may have a law department and may be willing to take you on there too. Hello, job security. So that would also be a great opportunity if your company's willing to pay for you to go to law school and then willing to hire you as a lawyer immediately after. You'd already be ahead of the game because you know the company, you know how they run, those kind of things, which is really half the battle of becoming a good lawyer inside of a company. So tip number 3 is seeing if your company will pay for your law school. Tip number 4 to getting your law school paid and not having to get any loans out is going to a state school. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you go to an in-state school where you live, the price for admission of a state law school, if you live there, is much cheaper than it is to go to an out-of-state or private institution. And so for me, that was the only way I could really afford to go to law school. I happened to go to the University of Texas. I lived in-state in Texas, and I think at the time I went, it was about $8,000 a semester. So that is something that you really could plan for and pay for much easier than, for example, I had really wanted to go to the University of Michigan. But for me, even though that was that was a public school, for me it would have been upwards of $40,000 to $50,000 a year for me to go there. So that was really preclusive to me and my family for getting me to go up there to go to that school. But things like staying in-state, especially if you have a great in-state school, and I'll have to give a little hook 'em here. We happen to have a great state law school in the state of Texas. And so that really helps us to be able in Texas to stay and go there. And there's tons of other ones. For example, if you lived in Michigan, one of the top 10 schools, always great school. University of California has a great system of public law schools as well. New York, of course, has some amazing ones as well. You don't have to just go to the Harvards or Yales of the world, spend all that dough, take out all those loans, and then have to work your bum off just to be able to pay off the law school loans. So if you have watched our other videos, which I will link here, we do talk a little bit more about this in those, but going to a state school is a great way to make sure that you don't have to take out as many loans as you think you would have to take out to get to a good law school. Tip number 5 to getting your law school paid for is to join the military or other organization that may pay off your loans when you join them. So you get into an awesome law school, you get out lots and lots of loans to pay for it because, well, many of us have to do that. I even had to do that too, even though I did go to a state school. So it happens to the best of us. Many people don't have that extra cash hanging around. So you can then think about what you could do after you graduate to get those loans paid off so as quickly as you can. So several of my friends ended up joining the military. They ended up going into JAG or other organizations within the military, but immediately their law school loans were forgiven. They did have to put in time and service, of course, and that is definitely something you want to consider, but the experience you get in something like the military is amazing. You go in, of course, as an officer because you've got undergrad and graduate school under your belt, and you really do get a breadth of experience when you do that. And when you get out, you'll be able to get any good job, I swear, after coming out of that. But, and I will say this, one other thing. My friend that did this in law school, he was stationed in Hawaii. What? I don't know why I let that go away. So I just think that is an awesome way to get your law school paid for, even if you didn't do all the first 4 steps. You still got loans. You want to get them paid off. You don't want to just be working just to pay off your loans. Really think about this option as something you could do to add to your ways of paying off your loans quickly. You can also think about other things. There are other nonprofit jobs that may may help you reduce your student loan debt. And so think about things like Peace Corps, other things like that that may be more up your alley if the military isn't up your alley as much. So look at those. There are those available nonprofit type jobs or government sponsored jobs that will pay off your student loans. So don't give up. Even if you had to get all those student loans, there's still ways that you can get those paid off without having to do it all yourself. We hope you liked our top 5 tips to getting your law school loans paid off, or hopefully averting them altogether. We hope you've also liked this whole law school series. We'll have more videos coming to you in it, and we'll also link to you to the playlist of all our prior videos here. Again, if you have not subscribed, we hope you hit the subscribe button below and the bell so you never miss an episode. And tell us in the comments if you have had any sneaky tricks and tips to getting your law school loans or other graduate school loans paid for. We want to make sure all the other bosses out there get that same kind of intel. Thanks so much for watching.